This podcast is brought to you by Gundog Outdoors and Dakota 283 Kennels.
Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush'em and Dustin podcast brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flushing and Dustin.
Hunters, welcome back to another Flushing and Dustin podcast. We got an exciting guest tonight. We got Chris Ingram. He is a digital editor for Gundog magazine as well as Fowl magazine. Has some amazing pictures out there. Is very good behind the camera. So we brought him on tonight because we're going to talk cameras. We're going to dive into it, and he's got some great information to share with you. And so, Chris, introduce yourself.
Very good. Well, first off, thanks, Nick and Tyler, for having me. Happy to be here, and hopefully I can be helpful. But my name is Chris Ingram. I currently live in Middlebury, Vermont, in the Green Mountains here, and originally from Wisconsin, but moved out here about 10 years ago.
You look like a cheesehead.
Yeah, you can only see.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But no, it's funny because out here the cheese is white. They like their craft beer, but that's about the only difference from Wisconsin, the yellow cheese. But so reminds me of home. Some great similarities. Great place to enjoy the outdoors. So like I said, been here about 10 years now. And originally got started hunting with my dad back in Wisconsin, and started as a deer hunter. Wasn't a good deer hunter, didn't have a lot of sit in me. And if you guys remember when that chronic wasting came out, that was like right in the area we were hunting. And so it was kind of like, we're gonna stop, wait to see how this shakes out. And by that time I, got into high school and started, chasing down other things, right? Other interests, and kind of got away from the outdoors in large part. And really not until I moved here did I
So were you chasing women or?
I was thinking the same thing.
The sports women. We'll go with that. Yeah. But, as it does to us, but I got back out, when I got here in Vermont, was interested. I had some more time, was wanting to get back into the outdoors, and was thinking about getting deer hunting again because that's what I knew. And out here in the Northeast, we have a lot of wood ducks. So as I was kind of scouting for deer, I started to see these little timber rockets flying by, and I thought, well, this looks easy enough. So kind of traded the rifle for a shotgun and the bibs for waders, and got into duck hunting. And
usually when I'm in the timber, my wood ducks are behind me all the time.
Yeah. But was really passionate about waterfowl hunting for a number of years, and then kind of had gotten bit by the upland bug. I started to find the other timber rockets, the timber doodles, and realized I could hunt them.
Could you explain what that upland bug looks like? Is it like a tick or?
Well, when these birds just kind of launch out in front of you, and you're like, "Oh, this looks like fun. This looks easy enough."
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of my story with hunting. I consider myself to be that reactivated hunter, if you will. So still
nice.
kind of getting giddy like a kid, out there.
So do you? So give us a good story. Obviously, you took a break from hunting. You got back into hunting. Probably a different world hunting out on the east. You're on the East Coast, right? Yeah, on the East Coast. What is the bird? What's bird hunting like out there?
Sure. Well, first of all, a lot of people don't kind of always know where Vermont is on the map. To be honest, I actually, when I moved out here, I took a job and I had to kind of look at the geography too. Where is that? Is it in Canada? Is it on the coast? Is it? So we kind of like to keep it that way, but definitely come and visit us. So We are kind of near the coast, we've got New Hampshire and Maine out that way, but we've got a spectacular venue for upland bird hunting, lots of waterfowl, all the different ducks, puddle ducks, diver ducks. We get geese, snow geese over in New York. But New England's great because they're small states. It's easy to travel to get into some different spots within just a couple of hours. You can get out to hunt sea ducks. You can go chase all different kinds of birds, Maine, grouse, all that different stuff. So, but the story that comes to mind is actually kind of a funny intro. There's a mentor of sorts that I had here in the upland space, former Fish and Wildlife Commissioner. It's kind of a local celebrity of sorts, and he runs English setters and field trials. He's got some wicked field dogs and great hunting dogs, and he's hard to get a hold of. He's active, but I thought, boy, if I'm ever going to get a chance to hunt behind some good dogs and get a shot at one of these grouse, it's going to be with Pat Barry. And so I got an invite one day. He texted me. I stayed home from work or was, lying on the couch or whatever, and looked over at the wife and said, looks like I'm going hunting, okay. And he wanted to take me to one of his favorite woodcock covers. And I thought, I tried to twist his arm a little bit, like, let's go find the grouse, and he wasn't having it. So he said, meet me at this store, it's down in this town on this road. And I said, Pat, that's not it. That you got your wires crossed or something. That's not it. No, it's fine. Just meet me there. So he went to where he thought he was supposed to be, and I went where I thought I was supposed to be, and it was two different places. So not off to a great start here, but once we finally kind of got together on things, he come up where I was, and we did end up going to the grouse spot. It was kind of nice because it was my first experience really being behind a flushing dog and somebody that was super knowledgeable. We got into absolute picturesque cover, classic New England landscape with the rock wall and the old overgrown orchard farmstead type, bluebird, crispy October day. We parked the truck and closed the door, and a grouse drummer sounded off, and I just thought, this is it, my time is here today. And so we kind of went through the cover a little bit. We actually moved some woodcock, took some shots, didn't get any birds, and then we found that drummer, and the dog put the bird up in front of Pat. He knocked it down. I was kind of able to see what that was like, and just have that experience. And so, but fortunately, we kind of moved around a little bit more, ended up moving another bird, and it kind of sailed off to my right-hand side. And you look and shoot, how them grouse are, and kind of sailed off, and I didn't really see it pick up or crash down or whatever else. You want to talk about some neat dog work. The dog took off and went in, and I just seeing his tail twitching like that. He's kind of stopped, and I knew exactly what that was. And he came back out with that bird in his mouth. And
oh man,
I lost
first
it, man.
experience.
It was just awesome, and to kind of have that first bird experience with a mentor, someone that I admire, and just equally appreciative of that. It's been hard to kind of stack some memories against that, but that one certainly stands out for me.
That's a great story.
That is awesome.
That landscape sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's just classic. You read about it in the books, and of course they call them partridge out here a lot. But the differentiator is you shoot partridge out the back window of your truck on a dirt road with a .22, and ruffed grouse are what you shoot with a shotgun in your dog. So,
nice.
But I'm not playing sides. Hunting is hunting. Legal's legal. They eat the same. So, but
right.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you got a couple awesome pictures behind you. It looks like you got a lab there in a blind, and a pointer there up in the upland fields?
Yes, sir.
So what got you into cameras?
Sure. So I'm going to use humor a bit tonight, but another kind of funny story is, like I said, I moved to Vermont, self-taught. I didn't have anybody to teach me, when I started duck hunting. And I got interested in the magazines, of course, Gundog and Wildfowl, right? And just the presentation, the artwork, the stories, I mean, man, it puts you there. It's this whole, emotional experience. And so that really kind of sparked my interest in that. And I was a terrible duck hunter. I mean, I couldn't find ducks. I couldn't shoot ducks to bring home.
Are you and Tyler brothers?
How did I know that was going to be coming?
He can't hit shit either half the time.
I can take decent pictures.
There you go. You're believing. Exactly. So picking up the camera and kind of, preserving the moments and capturing those experiences was a way to stay out in the woods, longer, have a deeper appreciation for it. It just changed the motivation. I was after, capturing photos than trying to stack limits, right? But it was also a great opportunity for me to meet people. Now you start getting some good photos and tagging along, and you usually have a spot in a blind or a boat with somebody when you carry that camera around. So,
I really respect that, because I feel like even me, like, especially on like opening day or whatever, I don't want to be carrying a camera. Opening day, I want to get a damn bird, I'm still like, but then after, like, you get your first bird, then it's like, okay, everybody else can shoot and stuff.
Sure.
But that's a respectable thing for you to be able to just put it down and capture those moments, especially if you got a first time hunter out there. That'd be awesome to capture.
Yeah. And it kind of becomes a hunt in and of itself. And you'll see that, Tyler, as you start to go through, where, you're hunting for that perfect angle, the right lighting, or, anticipating that moment. It's equally as exciting, as shooting birds.
Do you do first time hunters for free then? Like, come capture them? Because Tyler still after his first bird. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the cool thing too. I love to get invites from friends and to go out and I wish I could do it every day, for free. It's really neat to be able to give that moment to somebody for them to relive forever. Absolutely.
So you said you're self-taught. How many hours do you feel like you've put into learning the camera? I mean, where did you start at compared to where you're at now?
Yeah, for sure. I got a camera from my wife and my family as a birthday present. This was probably like 6 years ago or so now. And, just started watching YouTube videos and like reaching out to different photographers online, asking them questions, and being self-taught. It's one of those things, just like hunting, where you kind of have to get those learned experiences for yourself, make the mistakes. You start moving dials around and, well, that doesn't look right. What can I do to change it? You really just kind of start to put yourself through those paces, and, you can make mistakes, right? You can kind of get through that, but, oh man, YouTube is incredible. There, for every question you have, for every technique you want to learn, there's a video for it. So I'd literally just start typing how to do this or how to do that. And then connecting with others.
You actually looked it up by yourself. You're not one of those people that go on Facebook and like, hey, looking for a place to get my oil changed. Where do I go? Like, what the fuck? Go on, look it up. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, man. I've always been a person to enjoy like pushing myself and getting
that's awesome.
To the challenge, and so that's
awesome.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, and this is one reason that Nick and I have ringnecks and retrievers, is we use it to document our dogs, right? We want to have a place that 10 years from now we can go back and look at pictures of our dogs and stuff, and obviously we want to take nice pictures to have, and so if someone getting into the camera game for hunting, right? You see that a lot. What's a good camera for hunting? Where does someone start? What would you recommend they do to start?
Sure. Well, I've been excited to use this analogy and something that I'm passionate about, and that you and your listeners will all understand. We've all been in the forums where you see, what kind of dog should I get? And, that's a very loaded question. I cringe when I see that, because it's kind of like, I don't know anything about you. I can't like confidently recommend anything for you, right? So I kind of treat, offering advice with the camera game the same way. What's your, and Tyler, these are the questions that went back and forth between you and I, because you're someone that's going through this now. What's your experience with using cameras? Have you used film? Have you used any digital? What do you want to capture? Are you doing landscapes? Are you doing portraits and lifestyle? Or is it, wildlife? Are you interested in video? There's a couple different kind of things that I want to know about somebody and what they want to do with this before I can offer any sort of advice. So that's really what I kind of like to get from people. Budget is definitely like something to be talking about, but only because I can help, steer you into something that you can afford, right? So I think anybody that's going to be looking to get into photography and wants to buy a camera should think about those. Get a list going. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to do, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. So let's say
you're me. I don't know anything about cameras.
I'm
terrible at putting pictures on Instagram too, and I give Tyler all the credit for it. But I do have 2 pictures I recently took of my dog, and they're gonna be going up soon.
All right.
Well, let's say you're not looking at a video, right,
Mm-hmm.
for a dog or for hunting, and you mainly want it for pictures after the hunt, pictures during the off season.
Sure.
Where do you go from there?
Something to make you look good so your wife loves you better.
Yeah.
There's a filter for that. Right?
I don't know if there's a good enough one for Nick.
Probably not. Probably not.
The other thing I kind of liken to, once you start dialing it in a little bit more, is we always talk about camera systems. Should I go Nikon? Should I go Sony? Should I go Canon? And it's really hard to compare systems, just because I really feel that certain systems are better for certain attributes or certain activities. I started on a Nikon, but I soon went to Canon, because at that point I was interested in, frame rates. I wanted to shoot multiple quick frames. Canon, sports and wildlife shooters, there's a lot of lens options, right? But think about camera systems more so when you're comparing like automakers. If you put a Colorado next to a Tacoma, next to a Ranger, those are kind of in the same class, yep. Versus a Ferrari and, a half-ton pickup or something like that, so you can get closer to kind of apples to apples. And then really at that point, it becomes about, certain things that you want to get, right? Or certain things that system offers. But a lot of times, nowadays, these camera makers, they're all coming out with very similar like spec cameras. It's just kind of comes down to like preference then, what's the usability? What are the menu systems like? But unless you're kind of wanting certain something, I might tell you, go to Sony if you want to do video, or go to this if you want to do that. So, yeah.
So do you have, a recommendation for, because obviously all of our listeners are going to be in the upland fields or wetlands or something. Yeah. They're obviously going to be taking pictures of birds or dogs moving fast, or, more action photos, maybe. I don't know. But is there a base, like frames per second, can you touch on that terminology, that when someone, what's like a base that they should start at and then build from there?
Yeah, sure. A lot of your kind of entry level cameras, and you're going to see them kind of come in kits on Amazon and eBay. The Canon Rebel series, the T6Is, the T7Is, the Canon M50 mirrorless, or like the Sony A6000 series, the Nikon D3000, D5000 series. They're all very similar features and specifications. So like megapixel is something, it's kind of a buzzword that people are familiar with. That has to do with like the resolution. Most cameras are kind of coming out now with like 20 to 24 megapixels. The frame rate is kind of how many shots per second you can shoot. So if you want to shoot that dog that's running, through the water, you want to kind of capture, you shoot a series, that burst mode, right? So looking at that, some of the other things, I'm trying to think about, I mean,
would there, not to interrupt, but would there be lens? Obviously, another big thing is there's, like when I've been looking, there's thousands of different lenses, and they say 10 to 200, and then they have F numbers and V numbers, and I'm like, I don't even know what the shit this means, and
like,
I just want something that like is versatile, so I don't have to be carrying around 10 different lenses to make a good shot.
Yeah, that camera you got sitting behind you there, Chris, what's that? You got Bigfoot on that thing there? What was that?
Well, and this is kind of my go-to. This is a Canon R6 with the 70 to 200. So kind of, wide range, but it's telephoto, and I carry way too much gear when I go out, because you've got those different lens ranges, like you said, and that focal length. So the 70 to 200 or the 24 to 70, that's the millimeter. It's actually the distance of the lens to the sensor. But that kind of helps you dictate, like if you're shooting, close up versus landscape versus punched in. But I usually carry two cameras, in the field. I've got, a couple different lenses. Like this here is a 50 millimeter. So it's a fixed focal length, you zoom with your feet, versus this 24 to 70, that you crank on it to zoom, right? And then all of these lenses come with different aperture ranges, or f-stops as you call them. A lot of your kind of entry level, kit lenses are going to be the variable aperture. Your 18 to 55, f3.5 to 5.6. The aperture is the opening in the lens that allows the light to come in, right? And so the more wide open, as they say, the smaller the number. So my f1.2 50 millimeters is super, wide aperture, versus something that dials in a little bit more. And honestly, when you're getting started, I encourage people to get that bundle. You get that Sony, that Canon, that Nikon camera bundle kit, and it's got, sometimes two lenses. It's got your 18 to 55, 16 to 50 that you're going to use for your landscapes and your portraits, your blind work and close-up work. And then they'll have sometimes that 55 to 200, somewhere in that range, where you can punch out a little bit. You can get that dog coming back with the bird, or, working longer retrieves. And, honestly, for somebody starting out, just get the camera out there, start taking frames, don't get too caught up in what do these numbers mean and things like that. I actually picked up on something a while ago, and I've started to tell people, shoot in that auto mode, right? The camera's going to do a pretty darn good job of being, properly exposed, freezing motion, things like that. Look at those settings to help understand, kind of where you want to be with some of those things, like the aperture and the shutter speed, right? So don't get too intimidated, don't put yourself out, but just kind of get out there and start shooting. Yeah.
And what you talk about these entry level cameras and these kits, do the kits come with bag, carry bags? Do they come with what's all in these kits, and kind of what's a good price range if someone's looking out there?
Sure. Another thing I wanted to mention, with some of these kits and these mirrorless cameras, we're all familiar with the kind of larger DSLRs. They have a mirror inside of it that has to flip up and down to take the photo, versus these newer, smaller mirrorless bodies. So mirrorless cameras are really nice because they fit in, to your upland vest now. They fit into your duck blind bag. Much smaller form factor and lighter and such like that. But, typically I would say around $1,000, $600-700 to $1,000. You're going to get a really high end, like entry level camera kit.
What about the new iPhone? That's what I have here.
Well, and that's a good point, Nick. I mean, I've heard people that have put down all of the things that they're looking for and thinking about. And it's kind of like, well, shit, you should just get the next iPhone.
It does. I mean, I'm by no means any good with it, but it does take good pictures.
It's got different lenses on it, right?
Yeah, there's like 3 of them on the back.
Yeah, I mean, it does burst mode and panoramas. It does slow motion. It does probably 4K, HDR. It does all these fancy things that are the same tech they're putting into these cameras. So, and again, too, if I can't get my camera out in time, you just go into the pocket and you're going to get the shot. So.
Yeah, and it's also $1,000 if y'all want to know.
Is that right? Okay.
It is not cheap.
Or I think it's, I don't know what it is, $45 a month for 2 years or some shit like that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, not to be ignored, and like I said, it's just they're all tools, they essentially do the same thing. It's just kind of what's your preference. And the nice thing about getting that entry level camera is oftentimes you can upgrade to faster lenses or longer lenses. These all mount on, so you can always upgrade. And I, people think, well, I got to get the latest and greatest. I got to spend the most money to get the best images. And you really don't, you know what I mean? Like one of my favorite cameras is this 5D Mark I. It's a 5D classic. It came out like 15 years ago. It's 12 megapixels. This cover is taken with that camera. You know what I mean? So you don't have to have 50 or more megapixels, to shoot a winning cover. It's about, what you see and how you use that. What story are you trying to tell? What emotion are you conveying? And a lot of it is kind of setting up or being in the right place at the right time. Some of it's kind of like planning, but honestly, a lot of good photography is just like lucky, like shit luck. Like you happen to be there, the light was perfect, the dog stood there and did what it did, you know what I mean? So, but
I think you touched on a good point with your cover photo there behind you. I think I'm echoing, but I think the photography part is really a good picture. You could have the clearest picture, but if it doesn't tell the story, then how good a picture is it really?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, you could have just the picture of the dog with the hunter. If you just had the dog's face and didn't have the hunter in the background and the trees and the landscape, like what is that, how good is that picture in reality then, and
sure. And the other thing too is like, I think we touched on earlier is, if you can photograph, your son's first bird, your daughter's, first working with the dog, this or that, pick anything, right? No one's going to look at that and say, hey, that's, that exposure is slightly under, or like your composition isn't by the rule of thirds, like people don't say that stuff. I have done and still do wedding photography, and the images that compel people the most, that move them the most are just candid emotions. They're technically not perfect at all, but you've captured something special. Yeah
for sure.
So how'd you get into shooting for these magazines, Chris?
Yeah, good question. So as I started to, I guess, get better with the camera.
And let me interrupt you. And I don't mean this in like a bad way, but you don't have a degree, right? And these magazines sought out you. And I mean, I don't know what that means because I haven't obviously looked into it, but I know there's photography school, I guess it'd be called.
Yeah.
And you did this all on your own, so which is even more amazing. So more.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I worked hard at it. I made great connections with people. A lot of life is kind of who you know and who can help you along and so forth. But like I said, I got to a point where I became more interested in carrying the camera with me on the hunts and sought out opportunities, knocked on doors, that way. And I wanted to do more. I wanted to monetize. I wanted to help, pay for this hobby and upgrade gear and pay for trips and so on. I guess kind of just started to reach out to different people and, newer, younger companies in the fly fishing, waterfowl hunting, uplands and dog space. New company comes out, do you need help with some imagery and some digital marketing? I studied digital marketing, learned SEO and copywriting and kind of built my asset base as bigger and beyond just a photographer. It's really hard these days to make a living as a photographer. You can place a job with an agency and have full-time work, but a lot of freelancers, especially like in editorial and magazine work, they're working job to job. They're trying to sell image by image, so if you can, and print is not what it used to be, right? I mean, it used to be dozens of titles and it was kind of the go-to source, for all of your information, your stories, etc. Even advertising was a big side of that, but now we go online, we go to Instagram, so it's still prevalent. It's just kind of changed, a little bit, but just kind of, putting myself through the paces and just forging my own path, was able to get on the radar of some of these different companies and build my portfolio. I started getting into commercial work, working with different companies, and picked up the writing. I feel very strongly that if you can write well and photograph well, like you can still be a tremendous asset, in this outdoor industry.
Oh, hell yeah, you can be.
Yeah. And we're fighting like hell to kind of keep print alive. You know what I mean? It's personally one of my favorite ways to consume this content is.
It's a hell of a lot better than social media. And we got a fucking page, but I always say I don't know if I would have it if we didn't have all this online stuff going on.
Well, and it's just diversification, right? I mean, every brand, has a digital presence now, and I think it's great what you guys are doing, with the different social accounts and the podcast and website, all that different stuff,
Yeah. So what does your day look like? What's a digital editor do?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a great question. It's somewhat of a new concept, because you think editor with the magazine, but now there's digital. And so this is a newer position at Gundog and Wildfowl, whereby I'm a content creator, so I'm out photographing and writing stories, but I'm also working with our freelance contributors to hand out assignments and to build out, our digital delivery on the website. So, day to day is, publishing articles, editing stories as they come in, handing out assignments, working with our editor in chief, working with our associate editor on some of the print side, really kind of bringing into this new era of, Gundog is more than just a magazine. We're a brand and we're your go-to source, for things with upland hunting and bird dogs, so just kind of trying to tap into some of those different markets. But every day is different. A lot of times it's sitting here in the office working on the computer, but still able to get out in the field and we'll start going on trips here soon. And yeah.
So do you have like a group of hunters that you go follow around, that you ask? How's that work?
Yeah, sure. So, part of my job is to come up with what myself and our edit team feels would be interesting stories or content. You come up with topics, and it might be something that I'm going to write about or hand out, to one of our contributors. But really trying to focus in on what are hunters and dog handlers, talking about, what's trending, what's new, what's hip, what's controversial, maybe what's all the buzz, and how can we kind of attach ourselves and deliver that content outwardly. Yeah.
So when you post stuff or when you edit stuff, a lot of that's coming in from like Nick and I writing in to Gundog, or I mean, where does that information come from?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of times, the writers that you see in all of our favorite magazines, there's feature writers that are almost poets. They know how to tell a captivating story, and they might kind of do that full time, or it's part of their gig. Some of them are dog trainers or veterinarians that kind of have that authority. They have that expertise on a subject matter. But what's really nice about digital, and not just with our brand, but I mean, in the industry in general, is there's these end users, like you and I here, that have something to say. There's an experience, there's a story, there's a special interest topic or something like that. And, the editorial world is essentially, it is a two-way street, so we might get inquiries or submissions from someone like you. It might be, a seasoned writer, but sometimes we kind of look out there too at trying to recruit new talent or, see what somebody's all about. So it's a really just an incredible time to be working in this industry.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. I might have to start a blog up to see how my writing skills are, because I don't know if my talking skills are any good.
Well, neither are your shooting skills, so we won't judge you there.
Gotta monetize something of mine.
Keep going down that list. Yeah.
Can't sell my body either, so I don't know what's gonna work.
Well, we never asked Taylor yet, so.
Shoot. So, Chris, if someone's, and we might have already touched on it, but someone's obviously looking for a camera, right? That's really what Instagram is about. Everybody that follows us on Instagram, they're just trying to get a better picture, right? Mm-hmm. Be able to tell the story. If you had the top tip that you could give someone getting into it, what would you tell them?
Yeah. This just comes to me right now as you're asking me. I would say just kind of don't overthink it. Find something you can live with, that you can get started, because it might even be, a secondhand, your wife had a camera from photography school, that's been sitting in the closet, and you dig it out and start shooting with that. Or, you ask for it from your family next Christmas, right? The first camera that you get is not going to be the last one you end with, because you're going to outgrow it more than likely. You're going to change direction. And, we got a new camera coming out every 6 months, so it's just at that pace now. But more importantly is all these cameras do the same thing. Even the film camera does the same thing as a mirrorless. It takes a photo. There's the three basics of photography you might have heard, or you will hear, is the exposure triangle: your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO. And when you can control and manipulate those three things, that's all photography is. You know what I mean?
What's ISO?
So ISO or ISO, ESO, it's pronounced several different ways. It's the sensitivity of the sensor to light. If you're familiar with like adjusting gain on any type of electronic device, that's all it is. There you go, right there on your microphone. And if you're familiar with, like, when you crank up the gain on your mic, you might introduce interference or background noise, whatever else. The same thing on a camera is when you crank up the ISO, you introduce that noise or that graininess. So again, it's taking that triangle and balancing. You want to be as your lowest ISO as you can, but have a shutter speed and an aperture to be able to take the photo. But like I said, all cameras are going to do that the same, just different buttons or menus and what have you. So, just get into a camera, start rocking with it, learn about it, and then you can grow from there. I mean, that's like, my first car was not a Ferrari. I had no business being in something that I didn't know how to drive, so get in, learn how to use it, and you'll get somewhere. Yeah.
Nice. Very interesting.
So
thinking about getting a camera now, Nick, or you gonna wait to see what Tyler
Well,
does?
I think my wife actually she does have a camera. I'll have to look to see what kind it is, though. I've never
Yeah.
used it. But
But
I know
even
she
too,
does.
I mean, your iPhone, as I understand, like has control. You have portrait mode, and I think you can control some of those settings, right?
Well, Chris.
I'm sure you can.
We're gonna have to do a lesson.
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
portrait on here. Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's all sorts
But
of shit.
to get back to your point, Tyler, is like
Slow mo.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna do that for Tyler when he's shooting at a bird.
Yeah, slow-mo, man.
Bam.
Yeah, you'll hear the audio drawing out too.
And then you'll probably hear me. Fuck.
Mhm.
Oh, that's funny. So we're probably going to post this one up on YouTube.
Mhm.
Is there anything, and we can go to a different view, so basically you'd be the main view. Is there anything on your cameras right now that you'd like to show us that could be a couple tips that you might have learned along the way? Maybe when you look at a screen,
Don't worry, Chris. I'm getting it all
different
figured
things
out.
are.
I can share some tips. I'm just figuring it
Oh,
out.
okay. I'm out.
Is there anything that you can think of that's on the cameras right now that
Sure.
would be a good tip to give someone?
Yeah, and my cameras are going to look a little different, just because they kind of camera makers have your entry level, your prosumer, and then kind of your professional high end grade. So a lot of times, like the dial buttons, and I don't know if this is upside down or backwards, but you're going to have a lot of the same kind of dial functions. This year it doesn't have the sports mode and the portrait mode and landscape mode, but if somebody's starting out and they're getting that camera that does, use those, because the camera is going to get you dialed into like appropriate settings, and then you can get comfortable with what that looks like, what that feels like. Pull up on the back of your screen, how does that shot look, and look at the settings. What is the shutter speed? Well, the shutter speed is a fraction, right? It's 1/8,000 down to 30 seconds. So the shutter speed is the amount of time that your sensor is exposed to light. And, that influences the brightness and darkness, but it also influences motion, and whether you're going to freeze motion like a bird in flight, or you want to blur motion. And like, sometimes you want to intentionally break the rules, if you will. So, learning that core group of the exposure triangle, learn it, so then you can kind of know how to break those rules. But
Awesome.
I mean, it's a lot, like I had a buddy here just start a couple weeks ago with a camera, and I mean, it's like he's texting me every 5 minutes, what does this do and that do?
He probably got a disposable and then threw it away. And didn't get any pictures.
Yeah. But
hey, Chris, I didn't get any of my pictures off my disposable. What'd you do with it? Well, I threw it away. It's a disposable camera.
yeah.
That's on The Office, by the way. They do that.
Oh man, you're the jokester, huh, Nick?
They take pictures, and then she's like, "Well, that was a waste," and then she threw them away.
Yeah, it didn't show up. Oh no. But I mean, maybe more helpful, than kind of intimidating somebody with all the different acronyms and stuff on the back of the screen. I thought some other helpful advice might be, talk to your parents. A lot of them used to shoot photos, or if you got a family member, a friend, or somebody that was in high school photography or is an amateur. hop on those local, those Facebook forums, waterfall photographers and videographers, or there are local camera clubs or photo groups, and they go on walks together, and you get to, shoot and talk to somebody. Why is this doing this? And how do I do this? And reach out to me. Like, I'm happy to give my contact info. I'm happy to talk to anyone. If you're trying to navigate the menu or figure out a purchase, there's nothing more frustrating than like getting the wrong gear, or, getting in over your head, or whatever. And so, anything I can do or anybody else can do, find those people that are willing to help you. They're out there for sure.
Yeah, man. And you've helped me. I sent you some messages I asked you about the drone thing first. And,
sure.
Then I was looking at the camera just for, my other business. And I was like, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. There's so much shit out there that, it's like, I don't want to spend $5,000 on a camera because I don't know if I'm going to be any good and if I'm going to like it. Right. So I don't want to go all in right away.
Sure.
I didn't know you asked him about a drone. You trying to act like a bird since you can't hit him?
No, I got it. So if I list anybody's land, I can take some nice drone footage.
Yeah, maybe scout over to that cover, see what the pheasants are doing.
Yeah.
I see.
I got to have any advantage I can take. Come on. But and what do you have any good YouTube channels that you recommend? I mean, besides Ringnecks and Retrievers, but it's fine.
Well, after that, I mean, there are a couple good ones. Frono's Photo is a good one. It's a lot more kind of gear based, which is helpful. I'm trying to think, because I got served so many different kind of random videos by just typing in what different things mean.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't have anything in particular other than that. But if you got something in mind, search for it. Search on Google. There's going to be somebody else that had that question that's going through what you're going through.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Chris, I appreciate you for your time tonight. It was super informative. This is information overload. So I think I hope our listeners get a lot of good value out of this. Hopefully they send you some DMs, and get you some questions, and maybe sometime we'll either come out there and get you to picture some of our hunts, or maybe we can get you out this way sometime if you're passing through,
Yeah, I got to make a trip home at some point there. Southeastern Wisconsin. So yeah,
that you do.
So if you're ever coming out this way, we definitely appreciate you coming along. You can carry the gun; it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Probably do better than I would, anyways. So what's the difference? But again, we appreciate it. Like I said, tons of information, and might have to have you come back on for another one if we get a bunch of questions off this one.
Yeah, that'd be great, guys.
Yeah. Thank you,
Awesome.
Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Have a great night.